I'm kind of an open book about my past. And my mom's gone, so I don't have to hide it from her anymore.
Ah,
It said I
yeah.
was born in San Jose rural, which meant that the hospital at that time was outside the city limits of San Jose.
Wow.
So I've been telling people I thought I was an urban Hispanic, and I find out I'm a country boy.
Okay.
And I, for some reason, became fascinated with watching the guys in their underwear, and they would come out of the bathroom toweling off and going.
Yeah.
And I found out, I years later, I found out that from another student that was gay that I ran across, that he was gay and that he used to service guys in his van out in the parking lot of the school at lunchtime.
Okay.
I had no idea. I missed out on that. I'm legit waiting for a bus, and a guy pulled up, rolled down his window, and asked me if I needed a lift. And I looked in the car, and he was masturbating, but it was called the Gaiety Theater, and it had they switched between drag queen lip syncing and very sad go-go boys, and that was the first time I'd ever dealt with that. So that was fun. My brother told me later that she cried like I had died.
The more you talk, the richer the information gets.
And we have the technology to extract what we want from what you say.
So I arranged to have two or three go to friends with benefits in Hawaii.
In Hawaii.
Yeah, I was stationed there in the Navy. So I had evidently a blue collar look to me, and the guys would I would get approached by bottoms a lot, and so they and since I'm a nice guy and accommodating, they would ask me to abuse them to some degree.
Mhm.
The ones that are stuck together. I remember my first client. I got hard just standing at the door knocking on it, and the whole concept of somebody willing to pay me for sex was very erotic, and
Oh,
I was hooked. It was amazing to me that people didn't know where to find a bearded, balding, middle-aged, chunky guy in San Francisco, and I'm thinking, throw a rock. They're they're everywhere. Guy flew me to L.A. Turned out he was Michael Jackson's plastic surgeon. In the bedroom, he had one of Michael Jackson's gloves on display, along with.
okay.
He also, I think he's the one that gave Carol Burnett her chin. So it was a bunch of guys who were fetishized perfect uniforms. And I joined, and I would wear my uniform once in a while. And I was the only one authorized to wear National Park Service uniform. I had the badge and the whole thing. I found out that the Alcatraz would allow you could spend the night at Alcatraz if you went out and did a work project during the day. People thought the idea was great until they found out there was no showers. So then they didn't want to go out there. He had his shirt off while he was working because it was hot.
Yeah.
So people commented on his nipple ring. And anyway, one of the things I would do with everybody is have a living, have a reenactment of being an inmate in Alcatraz. And my coworkers never quite figured out why we all looked better coming off the island than we did when we got. There were two guys from Atlanta,
Yeah.
and there was some complaints from some of the beneficiaries who didn't think they were getting enough money from the fundraiser that this was
Yeah.
supposed to be. If Bear Expo didn't wasn't going to happen because they ran out of volunteers,
Mhm.
that we would start preliminary planning on doing our own gathering. We decided to do it again, and that's how Bear Rendezvous started. And we were, yeah, and we gave most of the money to the various organizations. I think we ended up over the years like $200,000 or $300,000 given out over the years. Yeah, after Bear Rendezvous kind of collapsed of its own success. And what surprises me to this day is that it became such a dominant name that anything that had to do with bears, everybody assumed we were responsible. So there's a Barracuda once a year big party, or
Yeah, during Pride Week, I think it's during Pride March weekend.
And while I was in the hospital, I discovered I also had an aneurysm in my left leg. He would show up at the Eagle in platform shoes and wearing his little raccoon tail. I think a bear is a big, either muscular or heavy guy who is hairy, beard, very bon ami, let's go have a beer kind of guy, who is non-judgmental about other people. It's the first time I've ever seen a weight limit posted on the outside of a building.
I once got ticketed for running a red light on Folsom Street. And to avoid getting points, I had to go to this mandatory comedy routine where the comedian told jokes, I guess about, I can't remember, I think about traffic laws or something. But I thought that was a pretty sweet deal.
Was that? And one of the things I say in my long description is that my belly is great lumbar support when we're spooning. And so Bears of San Francisco we just kept rolling with it until finally we were a victim of our own success, in that all these people were coming to town for Bear Rendezvous, and businesses got the idea that they could hold bear events but not contribute to our fund for the nonprofit.
Not the official sponsors. Yeah.
I kept the uniform, and so I posed with the uniform in the back of the Lone Star.
I'm doing the Bear Book as an independent scholar, and it's technically for profit, although I've yet to ever break even.
I said, I'd rather have you go through the trouble. And then I immediately ran to my locker and pulled out anything that even hinted that I was gay.
I bet they had actually been in your locker and realized by then they wouldn't bother to get a search warrant because there was nothing to find by then. If you're going to tell a 20-year-old, yeah, you used to pay by the minute to call a sex line, people wouldn't believe it. And so it's the mosaic of all of these people talking their truth that together make a pattern of who the bears are.